Hello and welcome to the NFU's Shed Talks podcast. I'm Naomi Williams-Roberts and this is my co-host,
Josh Redford.
Coming up in this week's podcast.
I found it really beneficial to work away from the farm. I learned a lot of skills and I've been able to apply them to running our business, the business of farming. I think it was a good route. It's not held me back too much from a technical farming perspective, but it's given me a good skill base to be able to use it.
And from our Westminster team,
despite it not being a big budget though, the NFU will never miss the opportunity to do some lobbying. So we know that Tom is going to write to the Chancellor ahead of it and just make sure that she has some focus on the issues that matter most to our members. That's things like making sure our rural police forces have the funding they need.
From Westminster to wheelbarrows.
A farmer a week takes your own life. What's all that about? Why should we let this shouldn't be happening? Farming keeps this country going. It's one of the things we all need, our farming community. We all need our British farmers farming well. They deserve it for what they do for us all.
So, rumour has it, how are you? All right.
What's this rumour? I don't want to know. Nobody wants to know how I am. What's this rumour?
Rumour has it you got a new hobby.
Oh, I do. Right, to put this into context, we did a bit of a, what do you call it? Icebreaker.
Yeah.
Two lies and a truth. Two truths and a lie.
Not icebreaker drills like Marines, but yeah, an icebreaker, task.
See, I'm not in the Marines, so I have no idea about these Marine things that you talk about. So my two truths and a lie. I won't say which one the lie was, actually. I'll leave that for the audience to just try and work out. So recently I have started doing synchronized swimming. That's number one. Number two, I have recently started doing artistic roller skating. And three, which I always seem to forget, was I recently started pottery.
Okay, can we go back to artistic roller skating?
Yeah, well, that was actually a truth, and everybody thought it was more believable that I would be synchronized swimming than actually artistic roller skating was a thing. I have reached a certain age, I suppose, where I'm looking at things and thinking, why haven't I done that when I was younger? And, if I'm going to play the mental health card, my brain's quite a busy place. I'm quite an overthinker. And actually spending an hour a week trying not to fall over and break my bones is amazing for being in the moment. So I would highly recommend, if anybody's on the farm, go and do a sport or a hobby that has absolutely nothing to do with farming.
I mean, firstly, it was raised, how do you have the time? Also, we got shown a picture, and the knee pads, they're pretty prominent. And what's the average age of your group that does the roller skating?
Why do you have to do me dirty like this, Josh? Don't tell her, just embarrass me in front of all of our listeners. The average age of the people that are learning to skate is most probably 6, and I most probably bring in that average age at 32.
I mean, I think it's great. I think trying a new thing and putting yourself out there and trying something different is awesome. So yeah, well done. Artistic roller skating, good effort.
I'm going to keep this. I'm a Scorpio, so anybody that knows Scorpios and believes in that whole horoscope thing, I will now sit. I will wait for my moment to return this favour.
Yeah, I'll wait.
It's coming.
Now, influencers. We had a little chat beforehand, didn't we? What's your opinion on ag influencers? We've just come on. This is off the back of, listeners, we're talking off the back of Farm Fest, which has been all over social media. Pretty cool for the industry. They're trying to, make ag industry as attractive as possible, which is great, I think, in a way. But ag influencers, what do you think?
Well, being one of 6 presenters, most probably with the least followers, maybe this comes from a slightly bitter perspective.
Well, we're on the same wavelength here.
I know.
We're both got private social media. We're not really big on it. But go on. What's your opinion?
I most probably have a slightly more jaded perspective. Again, throwing me under the bus. And when we started this podcast, I said I wanted to be really honest about things. I think there is so much good that's been done. But I also think, is it a slightly saturated market now? Like, what is the USP? What do they bring? Like, for the feedback I've had from Lama is that it's so, look at this influencer, look at this one, trying to pull people onto stands. And actually it's taken away from the kits. And not everybody, you can have a fantastic farmer, put a microphone in front of them and they come undone. So I do think that the industry needs to have people that can be positive representatives. And I think they are doing that. Sometimes are they showing the full picture?
I mean, for me, the reason I went to uni, studied agriculture, and I got into farming, that's why I went and worked on a dairy farm when I was younger, was because Jimmy Doherty did his program back in 2001, and that was sort of the first. I mean, we're going back now, but that was the first time agriculture had been shown on TV, and it annoyed farmers profusely because it wasn't very realistic. And now we've got the likes of Jeremy Clarkson, which has been a bit more of a positive influence. It's shown farming for what it is a bit more. But yeah, I don't know. I think and there must be a lot of time and effort put into making some of this content.
It is. It's a full-time job. Like, what I think is amazing, like as a mum, I get the whole criticism from school, not me personally, but there's a worry about the next generation with social media, or the next generation's influence with phones, and how our attention spans are shorter and shorter. I have the opinion of, if I'm actually not letting my child engage safely with an iPad or technology, am I actually going to hold them back? Like, when I was in school, YouTuber wasn't a job. Like, you have a look at all the technology that is now being used on farms, that you've got drones that are auditing ground to have a look at carbon. I think you need to embrace technology. What I think with social media is there's a lot of noise, and actually it can have a negative impact on your mental health. Like, if you were a person that went and thought, I'd love to be an influencer, but you weren't getting the engagement, how does that impact you as a person? Like, your worth is not on those likes, or how you can monetize it. But actually, if that's a job, much like anything.
And it's a different income stream. I mean, that was a really good link, because we're now going to jump into a piece we've done with John Fairley and Maria Warren-Elson. Let's jump in. So, is it better to stay on the farm after leaving school to gain experience and responsibility, or is it more beneficial to leave the farm and do something else before returning and bringing outside skills and perspective back home? We're joined by two guests, one who stayed on the farm and another who left the farm and came back later. We want to find out what the benefits and drawbacks of doing either are, and share experiences with you, our listeners. So, Maria, John, welcome to the NFU Shed Talks podcast. How are you both doing today?
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for joining. So, Maria, if we could start with you, can you just give us a quick rundown of you and your farm, and what you get up to?
So, I'm Maria Warren-Elson. I'm a 5th generation farmer from down in the heart of Cornwall. We are a primarily stock farm, so we have beef, sheep, and then we have arable that we feed straight back into our system. So very self-sufficient here, very old traditional farm, not too much technology, just not having to rely on anything much but your pen and paper, which I enjoy. But yeah, I'm sure we'll go through that later in the podcast.
Nice. And John, same for you, a brief intro to yourself and your family farm, please.
Sure. Hi, I'm John Fairley. I'm a 6th generation farmer from Angus, Scotland, so just next to Dundee. Very old school mixed farm. We have a range of things going on. We've got potatoes. We grow ware potatoes here. We have a suckler herd of cattle. We have a flock of sheep. We grow cereals as well, so wheat, spring barley, oilseed rape, and we have a hill farm with some holiday lets on it. We have wind turbines as well for renewables, solar panels on sheds. So a real, quite a broad church.
Nice. So, John, you went away from your family farm and then you've come back. Maria, have you always been on your farm?
I've always been on the farm. It's just a matter of I've been part-time for a moment. So I was part-time between 2019 and 2023 because I trained to be a veterinary nurse. My family's always been of the sense that you need to go away, you need to get a fallback education in case, putting it bluntly, things go tits up. So I became a degree level veterinary nurse, and I've brought that back onto the farm. But it was more a case of just in case things go wrong, you've got something. However, there wasn't enough of a workforce here for me to be able to go away and do university. So I did a at-home kind of university thing. It was about 45-minute drive from home that I'd have to do. And that meant that I could do the morning yard work, do any crucial jobs before I went, and then come home and again do the yard work and do anything else that needed a few more pairs of hands. So I've always been on the farm. It's just a matter of the hours I've done.
Some people probably don't have the option to leave. You know, they might be tied to helping run the family farm. Is that the case for you?
Yeah, basically. It was a case of you can go away and do university, but it's more than likely this place will not run and there won't be anything to come back to.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think, you know, listeners will know that it's ultimately down to the specific situations on the family farm as to whether you stay or leave. But for you, John, what was it that made you to decide to leave and pursue a different career?
Look, I didn't really think of it as leaving. My parents, my family never put us under. I've got a brother as well. I've got a younger brother, and we never were put under any pressure about coming back to farm. Like nothing. It was never talked about that you would come back. You know, nothing. I was always really driven, to be honest, right through school. I really wanted to succeed, so I did well in my exams, you know, a bit of a geek. So I did that, and then when you go through uni, then all your peers are all competing for internships and grad jobs, so then you're competing, and I'm quite competitive as a person as well, right? So, you know, you're competing against everyone, so like, you know, right, what are the best grad jobs? And thankfully, when I was going through uni, I got a really good summer internship with a big professional services firm called Ernst & Young. I got one of the best internships there, so I got that after my third year at uni. In Scotland, we have 4 years typically for an undergrad degree. So after a third year, you do your internships, your summer internships. Got that. Got offered a job at the end of a grad job at the end of the internship. You know, it kind of just all snowballed from there, and through that they train you as an accountant. So I qualified as a chartered accountant with them, and at the end of that, then that opens up a whole, you know, range of options in terms of jobs. It's a great professional qualification to have, business qualification. So I got a job in investment banking at that point. To answer your question, I kind of, you know, did a Billy Connolly there, right? You know, I never deliberately chose not to be in farming. I think opportunities opened up that led me down that path.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You've like, you know, Maria, I think it was quite simple, the brief that I got, that you know, you stayed on farm, but actually the skills that you've brought into your business with your veterinary nurse degree, I think that's awesome. And obviously John's brought you know, a completely different set of skills back. But how do those skills benefit your business, Maria?
So obviously we're, like I mentioned earlier, primarily livestock. When I went into veterinary nursing, the reason I went in is because large animal veterinary nursing really interested me. Nowadays they've got vet tech, which wasn't a thing until I got into my final year. So yeah, went into the large animal veterinary nursing. So obviously I was going to cattle C-sections, goat poisonings, operations, whatever it may be, getting a full brief of everything disastrous that can happen to an animal. So then when I come back home onto the farm, it meant that when something was going wrong, I knew what we needed to do, whether it was a case of we call the vet, or is it something we can treat here with the knowledge that's already available to us through the degree. And it saved us a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of stress and aggro that otherwise we would have had that degree not been in place. So it has really, really given us an advantage when it comes to the livestock side of things. And down here in Cornwall, our land's not really made for, or where I am anyway, it's not made for arable production. The soil quality's not quite there. The hills would not allow a tractor on it. So it is a case of livestock. And I'm very lucky that I enjoy that side of it a lot.
And I think, you know, John, you know, you got spuds. I was out growing potatoes for 5 years, and it can be really technical. And what have you brought back technical wise from the experience you've had in finance?
So technically, not a great deal, right? I mean, I think what you learn in finance and around being in professional services is a solid skill base of analytical skills, you know, really good, solid be able to take in a lot of information, process it quickly, and make good judgments around that. Project management is really strong. So, you know, when I was working in M&A, you know, we had project teams, very demanding time schedules, demanding, you know, clients, demanding managers, you know, everything. So you'll really learn how to work with a set of constraints, manage younger people with, you know, within a very challenging environment. especially during COVID when we were working, everyone was working remotely, so, and those sort of management skills are really important. Assessing, being, like a really solid assessment of what works and what doesn't. That's what I've kind of brought to the period, and be able to sort of having the confidence of managing very senior clients and things like that. Going into farming, I found really beneficial for myself. Some people have that naturally, but I was definitely learned that from my career.
And look, I think choosing the right career is an absolute headache in ag. It's you get to so many crossroads, you don't know which way to turn. What advice do the pair of you have to young people listening to the podcast, debating what to do with their careers? Just a real short bit of advice. John, let's go for you first.
Okay, so I found it really beneficial to work away from the farm. I learned a lot of skills, and I've been able to apply them to running our business, the business of farming. So if I was advised, I think it was a good route. It's not held me back too much from a technical farming perspective, but it's given me a good skill base to be able to use it that can be used for farming. If I was a young person, doing the same, I would do the same. My degree and my work, kind of my early career before I came back to the farm, is more around business, and I found that helpful. I'm not so sure if that'd be the case if you were doing something that wasn't around business, so it was more, something was less applicable to the business side of farming. So I've used those skills for farming. If I was a farmer, a young person who wanted to go straight back to farming, I would recommend that you don't go straight and work for your parents. You go somewhere first and have a different boss, and also work in a bigger farming outfit with a team of young people, and sort of maybe some managers or something like that you can learn from as well. So you learn a more diverse set of skills. And also, if that's not possible, then go traveling and work, maybe in Australia or somewhere like that so you're working for other people. I think is really important too.
Nice, thanks, John. And Maria, what would your advice be to any young people listening?
It depends on your setup once more. The opportunities are always going to be out there, whether it's working on a neighbouring farm, just coming into the industry, going into an apprenticeship, or whether you're wanting to go back to the family farm or simply don't have the choice but to go back to the family farm. The opportunities are always there. Go to where the opportunities are and you will thrive. Just trust your gut, and there really is no set route to get into the industry. Everyone and everything is so unique. So just wherever the ball takes you, go with the flow, and I'm sure it'll work out just fine.
Nice. Guys, thank you so much for joining. I could I'll talk to you all day. And yeah, good luck with that storm up your way, John, and I hope you're all right down in Cornwall, Maria. Between our last recording and this one, we've had a bit of time off over Christmas. What's new in Naomi's world?
Oh, well, the artistic roller skating, obviously. Sadly, no synchronized swimming. I actually put myself forward for a promotion in work.
Oh, nice. We haven't really talked about your work. Go on, explain a bit more about what you actually do on day to day, apart from farming.
I work for ABP, so I look after an integrated supply chain that puts Sainsbury's Taste the Difference beef.
Yeah.
So having a look at growth rates, genetics, it is really interesting. It's one of those things, it's like Alice in Wonderland, that once you go down the rabbit hole, the amount of data and information that's hopefully driving productivity for British farmers, that's available, it's just mind-blowing.
It all makes sense now because ABP are near Guildford, aren't they? So hence why you might be in the area a bit more.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be in your area and we can do a face-to-face, because for listeners back home, half the time I stare at Josh for a screen. But luckily today I've got the privilege of being in the same room as him.
Yeah, we're at Stoney HQ. Council is in full flow as we speak. So it's a busy old place at the moment.
So are you into county conferences now?
County conferences, as in like county AGMs?
No, conferences.
Conferences.
Do you not have those
county
in England?
Conferences?
Yeah.
This is
It's
wild.
like
Go
the
on,
most
explain.
attended event
Okay.
because there's beef rolls.
Okay.
And we always have a guest speaker.
So we've got a slightly different language in England. We call them county AGMs.
Oh, we have those too.
Oh, you have them too?
Yeah.
Oh. What's the difference between a county conference and a...
They feed us at the conference.
Oh, we feed people at every opportunity.
AGM is very formal, so it'll be the voting in of people for the boards, chairman, that type of thing. Conference is more about a guest speaker about themes that be relevant to the area. Always really, really well attended. I'd say it was the most attended meeting of the year.
This is so interesting. So in our teams meeting yesterday, we were literally talking about how we can improve attendance at our AGMs, and maybe we just need to look at it differently and have a county conference. That sounds like I'm going to take that back. Thank you.
One from Wales, leading the way.
Right, the news.
Go on, because you're more finger on the pulse with the news than I am.
I think it'd be remiss not to talk about IHT.
Steal the thunder from the Westminster team.
As a county advisor, I get to go around and see members in the evenings. We've had lots of branch meetings recently. We have these things called county management groups as well, which are these are really cool groups. They're made up of branch chairs, county chairs, like board reps, and we discuss all the issues in our counties. And obviously, we've been talking about IHT. It's just been interesting to get the views of members and feed them into our county chair and our council reps ahead of council. Quite cool to see the full picture, because today council are meeting at Stoneleigh, and they'll be talking about how the NFU have responded to IHT. What's your view? Have you been able to speak to anyone about this?
I think it's generally something that's still at the forefront of people's minds. I was going to ask you what the feedback was from the members on the changes that have already been made. Is it a positive response? Do they still think that there's more to do? Do you think they'll still be going to do more campaigning outside of Westminster Hall? Yeah,
I think it's been really interesting to see the range of views. I mean, our membership's so varied. So for I met with members in Surrey at our county management group, and the sort of consensus was it's still not great, and they understand where our position is at, but it's an okay outcome. And then I met with some members with an MP in Surrey, and their businesses are in a different area of Surrey, and they're still massively affected by IHT. So I just think it's really interesting to see on the ground how the views are so varying, and it's been really good because I was last Monday evening, I was with my West Sussex county management group, and it was great for those members that have got concerns about the NFU position to be able to feed those into their county chair and their council rep, and it was good for the county chair and county rep to be able to hear that, and they'll be able to bring these views to council. So.
We get, I get quite a few questions from people saying that actually it's not going to affect us because we're tenants.
Sure.
And I wonder when, all the changes were made, it seems to be hitting the landowners, but actually those that rent off the landowners have got even less control, arguably.
Yeah, so they're landlords. They're some of our biggest members, potentially, particularly in our part of the country. They run big businesses. So they're heavily impacted by the IHT changes, but you could argue that for succession, they're some of our most planned businesses. They've got some really good advisors that are helping them and have been for years. So they're actually quite well set up. But I think there's a pinch point in the middle. So we've got members that are, say if you've got over 500 acres, you're in a really difficult position where this is still going to really impact your business and potentially impact it for years. So yeah, NFU position stays that as a whole. As Tom said, Tom Bradshaw said, the campaigning, our campaigns stopped, but the lobbying continues. So when we met with the MP last Friday, we can still talk to them about this issue.
One of the criticisms that the NFU often gets is that are they actually doing enough? There is so much that goes on behind the scenes that actually can't get broadcasted or promoted because it is so dependent upon the personalities of people that we are lobbying. But what advice, I suppose, as a staff member of the NFU, can you give to members back at home that are on their farm that they can actually or actively participate in the lobbying from that grassroots level? What can they do to feel that they're making a difference?
So I think I'm really passionate about the NFU, and I'm really passionate about our structure. And the best thing they can do is get involved. So if they've got an opinion, go to that meeting and voice it. And it can be quite difficult to voice it sometimes. So whether you voice it yourself or you ask someone else to, and that's what's great about these county management groups we have, is that actually these reps that we've elected in our counties can come and voice those opinions. So yeah, that's my opinion. The NFU sub it lands on people's door, it lands on members' doorsteps. It's not a small amount of money, and make the most of that sub. or you'll make the most of your membership. So you've got to get involved. That's what I think.
So now we're going to go over to your favourite at home and our favourite, the Westminster team.
Hello everyone, the NFU's Westminster team here. I'm Olivia Phoenix, Head of External Affairs.
And I'm Scott Pepe, External Affairs Manager.
And this is actually my last podcast I'll record before I go on maternity leave. So I'll be listening to you all while I'm on my pram walks, but obviously time waits for no one. And 2026 will be another busy year in agri-politics, won't it, Scott?
It will. We've got a lot coming up this year. There's our conference, there's the spring forecast, we've got big elections in May, and then the King's speech. Lots to unpack. So should we just give a quick rundown of those sort of highlights and what we're thinking about in the year ahead?
Absolutely. Well, so last year, given all the work we were doing to on inheritance tax and the changes the Chancellor put forward, we were rather preoccupied all the time with the events the Chancellor was setting out, be that the spending review or her autumn budget. And we've got another one of those to look forward to, haven't we, coming up on the 3rd of March, the spring forecast. Tell us a bit about that, Scott.
Yeah, so the spring forecast is on the 3rd of March. This is not a budget, so don't panic. It's not a budget.
Repeat, it's not a budget.
It's not a budget. It's not even a spring statement. It's a spring forecast. So the Chancellor has asked the OBR to prepare some updates on the economy, and the Chancellor will give a statement to Parliament on the 3rd of March. Despite it not being a big budget, though, the NFU will never miss the opportunity to do some lobbying. So we know that Tom is going to write to the Chancellor ahead of it and just make sure that she has some focus on the issues that matter most to our members. That's things like making sure our rural police forces have the funding they need, making sure our border security and biosecurity services have the funding they need, as always asking the Chancellor to protect red diesel and rebated fuel, and also some growth stuff as well, looking at things like the annual investment allowance to incentivise growth on farm.
Yeah, so it's quite a good opportunity to do what we like to refer to as pitch rolling ahead of the next budget, which we expect to be in the autumn. But it's a good opportunity for us to set out our stall on those things that Scott says, and then, build the momentum ahead of the budget. So good chance to starting early in the year.
Well, you always say, Liv, that your message isn't getting across until you're bored of saying it. So that's why we always pitch roll, as you say, as much as we can, and just keep repeating our ask to ministers again and again. And the spring forecast is a good opportunity for us to do that.
Well, I'm glad you've certainly listened to me, Scott. So I certainly got through on that. Another big thing that is coming up is the King's speech. So we'll talk about that more when it's all confirmed. But what that in a nutshell, the King's speech is the new legislative programme. So it's basically the government's opportunity to bring forward its new bills that it wants to work on over the course of the next year or so. So we're expecting that in May time. The date is still, I think, yet to be confirmed. But one of the bills that we think is most likely to come through, so one new piece of legislation that the government will be working on, is in relation to SPS. We touched on this last week, and I was challenging Rory to spell sanitary and phytosanitary, which is no.
You're not going to get me to do that.
No, definitely not, because I wouldn't be able to tell you if you were correct anyway, to be honest. But can you tell us a bit, if you can pronounce it, can you tell us a bit more about it, Scott? Why are we expecting it, and why is it important to our members?
Well, it's really important to our members. So yes, the government is in the busy negotiating with the European Union on the sort of EU research and phytosanitary agreement. This is all the stuff to do with goods, agricultural products, medicines moving between GB and the EU. And in order to give itself the powers it needs, the government to give itself the powers it needs, it needs to introduce a new bill. And that's the one bill, as you say, that the government have confirmed that they're going to do. So lots of work for us to do. Clearly, one of those areas as well where different members might have different priorities as well. What a horticulture member's priorities are might be slightly different from, say, a dairy exporter's priorities. So Tom has been really good on this. In fact, he was in front of the business select committee last week, had a real grilling from MPs setting out the NFU's position, and you can read more about that on NFU online or on our socials. It's really worth, I think, watching what Tom had to say, because this is complicated stuff, and the NFU's got a really detailed and nuanced position, and it's really important that MPs, ministers, those people negotiating the deal understand that. So Tom's been all over Parliament this week talking about that.
Good. The NFU is always in Parliament, basically. So nothing new there. And then another thing that's sort of coming up and coming down the tracks is the animal welfare strategy. And we know that there are lots of bits that aren't necessarily focused on farm animals, but there is a significant section that does. And the government's opened a consultation, so they're looking for feedback from everyone on how that's received and what they think, how they think that can work.
Yes, and on animal health and welfare, there was actually a debate in Parliament. In fact, that debate was called by Sam Carling, who is one of our food and farming fellows from last year. So it just goes to show
one of our
how
graduates, our 2025 graduates.
So it just goes to show how important that scheme is and how it sort of creates for us a pool of interested and supportive MPs. So Sam Carling called a debate on Parliament, again, a great opportunity. Obviously, as you'd expect, the External Affairs team briefed MPs before that, and it was good to see, again, some of the NFU's nuanced positions and reflections on that strategy read out in Parliament. We measure a good week, don't we, Liv? How many times an NFU briefing was read out in Parliament, while in that debate it was read out an awful lot, which is great to see.
Yeah, and what was actually interesting is there have been a couple of debates on the consultation and the strategy the government's put forward so far, and it's interesting to see how well attended the debates are overall. That we know, having Scott and I both worked for MPs, and we've seen the number of emails that come into MPs' inboxes from their constituents who are raising animal welfare concerns. That's relating to companion animals and sea animals, and it goes, stretches sort of far and wide in terms of animal welfare. But it is a preoccupation of a lot of the sort of general public as well. So it is MPs as a result are very interested in it. So it's a good opportunity for us to engage to make sure that the farming side is put across, and we want as many members as possible to contribute to that consultation. And we're looking at how we can support members doing that to make sure, again, that DEFRA know the full view of what farmers think about that. Because also it really links as well to trade, because what we really don't want to see is standards raised here, yet that we're continuing to allow food produced to lower standards in countries where they don't have as higher animal welfare standards, that coming in and undermining what British farmers are doing. So that is a big piece of work, and it links to trade very nicely as well. So again, trade being a big focus of ours over the next 12 months.
Liv, you're so right. I remember from working in an MP's office, we would get so many letters and emails about animal health and welfare, but so few of them were from farmers. That's why when I go and speak to members, when I go to AGMs, I know you're the same, I encourage farmers to write into their MPs, write into politicians, because everyone else is, but it's farmers who've got the expertise and the interest and the business interest to do so. And on the subject of that, there is a very important consultation going on at the moment in the crop sector about the fairness in the supply chain. And Liv, it's really important, isn't it, that all our members with an interest in the arable sector write into that.
Yes, absolutely.
So, as always, a busy few weeks in Parliament, and we've covered a few of those big ticket events coming up, and we haven't even talked about NFU Conference or the big elections that are coming up in May, but we'll cover those in a future pod. So from all of us in Westminster, thank you very much for listening, and Liv, very best of luck as you go off on maternity leave.
Thanks, Scott. I'll be listening. And my only advice is let's make sure that I don't return from this maternity leave to a mass lobby. That was a baptism of fire last time, so hopefully a smoother start.
One other piece, SFI.
I know in Wales it's SFS.
Okay, yeah,
like
go on.
DFS for sofas.
Do you know much? Have you been keeping up to date with environment schemes in Wales, or is it not really affect your business?
Wales is different to England, so correct me if I'm wrong. You get a selection of almost like a menu of options we have 12 universal actions that you've got to stick to in order to get your subsidy.
Sure.
It's stacked. So actually, when they first introduced it, it was quite filled a lot of older farmers with, well, they weren't very happy. Let's put it this way. Lots of conversations about trees. If we had £1 for every time tree was mentioned, we'd be very, very rich as a devolved nation. But actually, quite a lot of again, this is down to the lobbying that NFU Cymru has done, that there are a lot of changes and it's a lot more flexible. So within it, there's still a tree element. There's still you have to not cut your hedge or a percentage of your hedges. But quite a lot of it is like KPI. And for people that aren't aware of what KPI is, key performance indicator. So if you're looking at your performance on a farm year after year, you would want to see improvements. So it might be fertility of ewes, it might be body score conditioning, which both should be relative to each other. But it's to drive to make a farm more profitable. And I think if you look at it that way, it's an easier pill to swallow. Are we going to go into it? Not sure just yet. By the time we've looked at what our farm would be, basically the payment would have dropped. I think it was at 80% or 70% in the first year. Our total payment is equivalent to that. So we will most probably let other people tread the boards first, just being practical really on the fact that we both have full-time jobs.
And you mentioned KPIs. I mean, that's something that on a day-to-day you do with your clients through,
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned, a lot of it is to do with genetics, like carbon. Supermarkets are so into the carbon data now because they need to keep their stakeholders happy. So being able to report back that they're making positive change, be it on biodiversity on farms, the age to slaughter on different animals, is absolutely key to start engaging with these supermarkets on that, because ultimately they are purchasing from these farms and engaging with them and not working against them. Even feedback, if you think something is wrong, feedback. People don't always get things right, but actually it's having those people on the coalface, people that are dealing with it day to day. But, even down to weigh-in, I've been on so many farms and nobody's ever said, actually, that's a waste of information, like waste of time. It is amazing. Once you know your data, you can't manage what you can't do, you don't measure. Banks are the same, factories are the same. And I think if we looked at our farms slightly less emotionally and maybe slightly more through a business lens, actually, what could we do then?
You talked about holding back and not wanting to be the first to go into environmental schemes. For our members in England, a lot of them did that and we're now in a poor state of SFI. So yeah, I guess there's a different atmosphere around SFI or environmental schemes in England at the moment. But we're doing a really good bit of work on it, which I think is quite cool. It goes right to our grassroots, and it's all about. So we've been offered to give some feedback. DEFRA have asked us for feedback, and that's coming from our HQ, our head office colleagues. But what we're doing is we're using our dairy boards, our livestock boards, and our crops boards. We're using them as a tool to feedback. So we're setting up some online meetings over the next couple of weeks. And so for us, our livestock board are meeting next Tuesday, and that'll give the boards an opportunity to feed their views and opinions on how SFI should look to those HQ colleagues, so they can then feed into DEFRA. And I just think that's a really cool bit of work and shows how the NFU sort of operates.
So are DEFRA looking for that information to be able to move forward with the SFI scheme? So
they've announced at the Oxford Farming Conference, they announced some very, I don't know, there's a lot. There's some big announcements on SFI. The fact that there's going to be an initial launch in June, and then it's going to be a full launch in September. But there was no detail. So I think this is going to help build that detail. And yeah, I think that's where we're right in the room. I'm sure other organisations like the CLA, they'll be feeding into it too. But it's just great that our members can have that sort of direct input into how the NFU are sort of feeding into these consultations.
Definitely.
And now we are joined by Sam Stables to hear about his story and his charity, We Are Farming Minds.
Could you tell everybody back at home a little bit about your story?
Of course, yeah. Just to give you a quick overview, so I've come from Yorkshire, from the Yorkshire Dales, and I, from a non-farming background, but But all my childhood was an amazing part of the Yorkshire Dales where farming was the hub of the community. And all my pals were farmers children, and I was in and around that. Sadly, I had a dad who suffered terribly with depression. And back then, so I'm 1979, so I was born. So back then in the 80s, mental health was really not talked about. It was very much a taboo subject. As a child, dealing with that, looking after my dad and things like that as a child was quite a big responsibility. And it took a lot of my childhood away from me. And farming was my escape, really.
I actually can relate to it as well, because my mum is the same. So I always grew up, that was my normality. Like, I didn't know anything else. Like, that is your childhood. You just assume that maybe somebody else's childhood is exactly the same. And like, I'd come home some days and she'd be in bed and you'd be like on your own, or you'd have to help. There was a situation when I was doing my GCSEs when my mum ended up in hospital, and it was the night before I was going back for my last year of school. So I had to deal with that and almost put aside, being silly and being 16. It is difficult.
There was very few happy times as a child. Most vivid memory I have is when mum found life too much to live together and she came away. And I remember sitting in a bedsit on a weekend while my father was laid in bed, and me and my sister spent all weekend sat on the end of the bed looking after him. And I can remember him looking at me. My sister had gone to the bathroom, and he said, and I was 10 years old, and he said, "Sam, I need you to do me a favour. I need you to go to the churchyard and dig me a hole, because I'm not going to be here much longer." And that's a memory I've never been able to get rid of, if that makes sense. As a kid, all you want to do when you see all the other dads on the side, I loved my rugby. For me, my rugby was so special to me, and seeing all those dads on the side cheering their sons on, and every time I looked to that side, just wanting my dad to be there, and he never was. And it's tough, but I think going forward then, forging a career through in farming, so starting from ground zero as I did, left Yorkshire, worked on farms, helping. I had this idea that I wanted to create a business in farming. Farming was where my passion was. I wanted to be a farmer. And so I headed down to Somerset on my own little journey, and started with £10,000 and a dog and an old quad bike, and went round and knocked on people's doors and said, "Can you give me a chance? I want to farm." And I was very lucky enough to start my farming career down in Somerset. And it was hard building a business up, and as we all know in farming, creating a farming business from ground zero is pretty tough.
Yeah.
And I think all the pressures that went along with growing the business, the long hours, struggling with no security to borrow money in order for me to push the business forward. I grew the business quite quickly, but through sheer Yorkshire stubborn determination, and I used to thrive off pressure. The more pressure I was under, the better I was. I just was trying to juggle absolutely everything, It was just mounting up. And for me, the pain in my head just became so great. I just needed to all go away. So I made the decision that I didn't want to be here anymore, because I didn't want to load everybody around me with my issues. And the best thing for me at that time was just not to be here anymore. So I was very, very lucky that somebody found me there. And when I went to hospital, and I was there for quite a while, the amazing support I got from farming neighbours, from people that I never thought would come and support me. They were there, my family, my wife. It was amazing. Like, for me, hospital wasn't a place to get better for me. It was a place of safety, but not for me to get better. Then when I got home into my own environment, and like neighbouring farmers coming to me and say, "God, we didn't have a clue. You're Sam, you're the laugh, you're the joke, you're the everything that we talked about, Naomi, that life and soul," what they did for me was amazing. Agriculture, farming is so unique. It's such a unique industry. Nobody gets it unless they're in it. And that for me is why we set up We Are Farming Minds, not only to break, the main aim was to break that stigma surrounding mental health, and to know that there is support out there, to know that it's okay to cry, it's okay to be emotional, it's okay to feel, and that there are people out there who understand.
I was going to say, Sam, you're doing these socials to encourage that step. Is that what you see as the...
We're seeing such a disconnect more than ever now, I think, from the city and the country. I feel like we're in two different countries sometimes, farming has been the hub of many communities, the pubs and things like this. That was the times when farmers came together. They were together and they shared and they laughed and they pulled together. And, the way farming has had to alter because of, financial implications, the more necessity on machinery, the more time spent on our own, because we know that in order for the business to succeed, we've got to alter our farming practice, so we don't get that interaction socially the same as maybe we did 20 years ago. That goes alongside the fact that, mental health was very prevalent, I'm sure, back in those years gone. And we hear stories and the words, and you'll have heard it before. Oh, old Bill down at the farm next door, he was, he wasn't just a full ticket, he wasn't wired up right. You hear phrases like that, he went and shot himself, but there was something not just right with him. Well, do you know what? Bill was probably really depressed, really struggling, maybe really lonely, maybe felt that he couldn't speak to anybody. That's probably what Bill was.
It's interesting how you say it, like, if somebody had diabetes, they're quite happy. Oh, I just go to do my test now, just check my levels. And everybody is like, yeah, that's okay. It's only now in the last, most probably 6 months, that I have come to terms with the fact that, like you said, I will always suffer with mental health problems, but it's recognizing my triggers, recognizing my pattern, and actually then taking accountability for it. So finally, I have gone on to medicine, which, this is my third different type of tablet, and the other two didn't agree with me. This one actually fits into my life. If somebody's listening to this at home and they think, oh, actually, no, what you're saying is resonating with me, I'm feeling isolated, I'm feeling very low, what would be your key takeaway for them on that journey to look for that help?
You can talk about counselling, or you could maybe reinvent that word quite easily. You could talk about you're going to see somebody who will give you the tools in order to manage what you're going through. I've been to see, if you want to call them happy pills, whatever you want to call them, it doesn't matter. I remember doing a talk, and one old farmer stood up and he went, well, I've been on them happy pills for 30 years and they've not bothered me and it's kept me right. And everybody went, you're bloody joking. Honestly, we never, yeah, what? I don't know what's the problem? It's no problem, is it? If that's what helps you and manages how you feel, great, good on you. You need, clap to you. Do you know what I mean? And everybody went, crikey, we didn't see that coming from him. And I think when I've done talks at young farmers, I always say to them, a bit like you said, Naomi, if you've got a broken arm, you'll go to the hospital, you'll get an X-ray, they'll put a cast on it and you'll get fixed. It's no different to your head. It might be a little bit broken, but with a little bit of support, we can get you fixed. And that's kind of what we need to keep drumming home and talking about, that's okay, isn't it? We need to make it mainstream conversation, talk about it just normally, like we're doing now.
I think the key is don't suffer in silence.
I tell you one thing, like, that's been a real light bulb moment for me over these 12 months is doing a bit of physical education. Do you know what I mean? How
I
that's
agree, Sam.
changed
It's really good.
Yeah, how that's changed my head is unbelievable. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I bloody hate running. It's like boring. It is boring. But the feeling that you get when you jump in that shower afterwards, it's unbelievable. That does take some beating, mind. And we always say, well, as a farmer, we can't make time. We can do. We can. I know we lead busy lives, but we can do, can't we, Josh?
Yeah, you're making a lot of time coming up, aren't you? You're spending 5 days. You're going to travel 142 miles. What can you tell us a bit more about? Can you tell us a bit more about that, please?
I'd like to say I came up with this idea when I was absolutely wasted in some country pub.
All the
But
great
I can't
ideas.
even use that. Yeah, I can't even use that as an excuse. So the idea being I'm going to leave Ross Livestock Market on the Monday, the 9th, and I'm going to walk to London over 5 days to hopefully get to the Farmers Club at Whitehall on the 13th, on Friday the 13th of all days. The idea being to represent a farmer being on his own. So that's me walking on my own. I was going to be the wheelbarrow, but we've altered it a bit, I'm afraid. I'm going to be carrying a bag on my back to represent all the worries that a farmer carries with them on that journey. So things like that, we all know those things: loneliness, exhaustion, financial issues, family worries. So that's going to be represented on my back, which is an Essien sack filled with straw. And during the journey at each stop, I'm going to try and put out a message. So you guys would be really helpful to do that for me if we can, to try and reach out to a farming family to take me in for the night. And that just shows the farming community spirit, people pulling together, as we all know the farming community does, looking after each other. So I found a farm on day one, on the Monday night. Somebody's going to take me in, a family is going to take me in for the night. I'm looking for a farm for my second leg on the Tuesday and a farm for my third leg on the Wednesday, and all that will be on the social media, all on what we're trying to do. Come and join me for a chat, come and walk with me for a mile if you want, and I'm raising money for the National Federation of Young Farmers, which is so important, thinking about our next generation. And it's just trying to raise awareness to people outside, not only in farming, because everybody knows what's going on in farming, but the general public from outside to know why it's got one of the highest suicide rates of any industry. A farmer a week takes their own life. What's all that about? Why should we let this shouldn't be happening? Farming keeps this country going. It's one of the things we all need. Our farming community, we all need our British farmers farming well. They deserve it for what they do for us all.
We'll, of course, help promote that from the NFU. So, best of luck.
It shows tremendous resilience, I think, to go from the position that you were in to then starting a charity, to then be able to offer a hand to help an industry that you're clearly so passionate about, and just continue to raise awareness. So again, thank you very much.
We've got to look after each other, because sometimes it feels though nobody else is. So we've got to look after each other, and that's what farming is, looking after each other.
It was great to hear from Sam. Obviously a really deep, a difficult topic, but like Sam said, and the name of what he's doing, hopefully one that provides a lot of hope and a lot of guidance for people that are struggling. And we'll pop in the show notes for anybody that is struggling, or anybody that knows anybody that could do with some support and some help. We'll post some links in the show notes so you can look for some help.
Yeah, and a massive challenge, 142 miles, 5 days, a big challenge ahead of him. So please do, support him if you can. Go for a walk. Go walk alongside him and take some Haribo. That's what he wants.
Bit of bed, nice pint, fish and chips for the next leg, and packet of Haribo.
Dropping that in, wasn't it? For those that want to find out a bit more, it's called Sam's Walk of Hope for the We Are Farming Minds charity, and it's taking place on Mind Your Head Week, which is the 9th to 13th of February.
And that's us done for another week. Up next time on the podcast, we are heading to the NFU Conference for another jam-packed podcast, and we'll see you then. So from me, Naomi, bye, and from Josh,
Bye.